My friends, today we gather not to boast, but to celebrate a victory that echoes far beyond the surface of the moon. In the long walk to dignity there comes a moment when the silenced find their voice, when the overlooked rise to the stars. India, a nation once bound by colonial chains, has today launched not just a spacecraft but a message. Chandrayaan 3 is more than a scientific achievement. It is a symbol, a declaration that the sons and daughters of a once colonized land now guide their own destiny with vision, with purpose, and with peace. To those in the British media who mocked, who doubted, who questioned India's strength, this mission is not a strike of vengeance, but a triumph of perseverance. It is a silent punch, delivered not in anger, but in excellence. May we remember, greatness is not inherited, it is earned. And today, India has earned her place among the stars. Certainly, here's an expansion of Keynote 1. From colony to cosmos, India's journey is unstoppable. Into approximately 600 words, written in the style of Nelson Mandela, dignified, reflective, and inspirational. There are moments in history when a single step forward becomes a leap for the soul of a nation. India's achievement with Chandrayaan 3 is not merely a scientific breakthrough. It is a profound reminder that the spirit of a people, once held in chains, can rise high enough to touch the stars. For centuries, the Indian subcontinent endured the weight of foreign rule, its genius suppressed, its voice silenced, its potential doubted. The colonial powers, with their rhetoric of superiority, often portrayed themselves as the keepers of reason and modernity, while they dismissed the capabilities of the very people whose lands they exploited. They took riches from the earth beneath India's feet and denied the brilliance within her mines. But time, as always, tells a different truth, a truth shaped not by the arrogance of empire, but by the quiet, persistent resolve of a free people. After independence, India did not seek revenge, she sought progress. She did not dwell in bitterness, she invested in building a future where the children of a once colonized land could dream bigger than the skies themselves. She turned her pain into power, her wounds into wisdom, and her silence into symphonies of innovation. That is the mark of a truly great nation. When Chandrayaan 3 touched down near the moon's south pole, it was more than a technical milestone. It was the echo of every voice once silenced, every hand once shackled, every mind once doubted. It was a declaration that India is not follower in the global order, but a pioneer, not a shadow of the past, but a light to the future. The cosmos, once a domain reserved for a few privileged nations, now welcomes India not as a guest, but as a rightful contributor. The journey from colony to cosmos is not a tale of luck. It is a testament to endurance, vision, and relentless human spirit. To those in the world who still view India through outdated lenses forged in the old fires of colonial prejudice, this mission is a clear and peaceful rebuke. It does not shout, it does not strike, it simply succeeds, and in that quiet success it speaks louder than any words ever could. India has arrived, and she arrives with humility, with intelligence, and with the promise of peaceful discovery for all humankind. Let no one say that the history of suffering can permanently bury the dreams of a nation. Let no child believe that because they were born in a once oppressed land, their destiny must be small. India has shown us all that the chains of the past do not define the heights of the future. What matters is the courage to rise, the commitment to persist, and the unity to build a better tomorrow. Journey from colony to cosmos may seem long, but it is walked one determined step at a time. Chandrayaan 3 is not just a spacecraft. It is a symbol of human dignity and potential. It carries no weapons. It seeks no conflict. Its mission is simple: to explore, to learn, to advance human knowledge. And in doing so, it brings honor not just to India, but to all of us who believe in freedom, peace, and progress. It proves that true power is not in domination, but in discovery, not in conquest, but in contribution. Would you like the next keynote expanded as well? Certainly. Here's a 600-word expansion of Keynote 2, Science is the New Language of Freedom, in the tone and style of Nelson Mandela, calm, firm, and visionary. Freedom, in its truest form, is not merely the absence of chains, but the presence of opportunity, dignity, and the ability to shape one's destiny. In the past, struggle for liberation was fought with protest and perseverance, with sacrifice and solidarity. But in this modern age, a new kind of battle is being fought not in the streets, but in laboratories, not with slogans, but with equations and data. Today, science has become the new voice of the free, the instrument through which nations write their own future, unbound by the judgment of others. Once, the colonizers told us that freedom would never suit the oppressed, that we were too backward to govern ourselves, too primitive to grasp the complex tools of civilization. They came with ships and flags, with books and weapons, claiming to bring light to lands they deemed dark. But what they truly feared was not ignorance in the colonized, it was the possibility that those very people, when free, would surpass them. And now that fear has become truth, when India launched Chandrayaan 3. It did not do so to impress or threaten. It did so to declare through science, through precision, through bold vision, that it no longer waits for validation from powers that once tried to break it. In this declaration we see a transformation. The tools once used to suppress have now become tools to uplift. Where once science was a gate guarded by empires, today it has become a bridge built by the formerly colonized. In India's hands, science is not just a pursuit of knowledge, it is an expression of liberty. A free people, when equipped with education and unity, can achieve anything. They can send messages across galaxies, decode the mysteries of the universe, and inspire generations to dream bigger than any border or history would allow. Let us understand this clearly. Freedom without education is a shadow, and education without science is a cage. True liberation is found when a mind is allowed to explore, when a child is encouraged to ask why and how, and when a nation builds institutions that seek truth rather than obey command. India's scientists, engineers, and thinkers are now the guardians of that new freedom. They speak a language the world cannot ignore, a language written in algorithms, powered by rockets and grounded in reason. The British media, and others like it, who mocked or questioned India's capacity, did not do so because they truly believed in India's failure. They did so because they feared India's success. And why? Because science, once monopolized by the West, is now democratized by the East. Because innovation, once dictated by colonial capitals, is now authored in Mumbai, Bengaluru, and Chennai. This shift is not just technological, it is philosophical. It redefines who gets to lead, who gets to innovate, and who gets to inspire the world. India's triumph is a signal to all nations who once stood in the shadows of empire that your place in the world is not dictated by your past, but by your will to pursue knowledge, to invest in your people, and to dare to explore. Science does not bow to race, class, or history. It only answers to truth, and when truth is pursued with integrity and courage, it grants a freedom far greater than flags or anthems ever could. It grants the freedom to imagine, to create, and to transform not only a nation, but humanity itself. Would you like the third keynote expanded next? Of course, here's a 600-word expansion of Keynote 3. Chandrayaan 3 is not just a mission, it is a message, written in the style of Nelson Mandela, thoughtful, measured, and inspiring. When a nation reaches for the moon, it does more than stretch its arms toward the heavens, it raises the hopes of generations who once believed the sky was too distant, the stars too far. Chandrayaan-3 is not merely a machine of metal and code, it is a declaration of intent, a quiet revolution in the form of science. It carries within it the voice of over 1 billion people, and its journey speaks louder than any speech, any argument, or any debate. This mission is a message not shouted, not forced, but delivered with dignity, precision, and purpose. It tells the world that greatness is not inherited by birthright or bestowed by legacy. Greatness is earned through resilience, through vision, and through the unyielding belief that no dream is too vast for the determined. For too long, India was viewed through the narrow lens of poverty and post-colonial recovery. Too often, her aspirations were met with skepticism. Yet she chose not to respond with noise or complaint, but with action. She built, she studied, she learned, and now she speaks in the universal language of progress space exploration. Chandrayaan-3's journey is not only a step forward in technology, but a step upward in identity. It redefines what is possible for nations who were once told that they could only follow. It says to every village child who looks up at the stars with wonder, "Your dreams are valid, your nation believes in them, and one day you too can build what others said you could only admire." The launch was not a spectacle of power, but a quiet, confident gesture of maturity, proof that India no longer waits to be recognized. She moves forward with or without approval. To the critics and skeptics in parts of global media, this mission responds not with bitterness but with clarity. It shows that the India of today no longer fits into the outdated narratives written by those who once ruled over her. This India does not raise her voice in defiance, because she does not need to. Her work speaks, her science speaks, her success speaks, and through Chandrayaan-3 that message has traveled beyond borders, beyond bias, and beyond orbit. More than the moon, this mission has reached the hearts of those who have long awaited a symbol of dignity and self-made pride. It honors not just scientists, but school teachers, farmers, and workers, the everyday citizens whose taxes, trust, and tenacity made such an achievement possible. It tells the world that space is no longer a frontier reserved for the wealthy or the historically dominant. It is open to the bold, the prepared, and the patient. Chandrayaan-3 is the voice of that new order, an order shaped not by empire, but by equality of aspiration. In this mission, we also find a deeper reflection on humanity itself. The moon has no politics. It does not ask about race, class, or creed. It welcomes all who come in peace. And so, India has not gone to claim the moon, but to contribute to explore, not for conquest, but for understanding. That is a message not only of progress, but of principle. In a world often torn by division, here is a gesture that unites a journey that belongs not just to one nation, but to the entire human story. Chandrayaan-3 is a message written in the ink of courage and sealed with the trust of a people who have always believed in rising, no matter how many times they were pushed down. It is a reminder that missions may end, but messages endure, and this message will echo far beyond the surface it landed on. Would you like to continue with Keynote 4 next? Certainly. Here is a 600-word expansion of Keynote 4. Mockery cannot outshine mastery. In the style of Nelson Mandela, calm, firm, and wise, grounded in moral authority and reflective insight, there is a long and painful history of powerful mocking the dreams of the rising. It is an old habit of empire to belittle what it does not understand, to ridicule what it fears, and to laugh at what it secretly knows may soon stand beside it, or even above it. When India announced its space mission, when engineers and scientists labored tirelessly to prepare Chandrayaan-3, voices from the so-called developed world rose not in support but in scorn. British media headlines, draped in arrogance, questioned the wisdom of a developing nation reaching for the moon when poverty still lingered on its streets. Their tone was not one of curiosity, but of condescension, the echo of a colonial mindset that has refused to fade. But mockery, no matter how loud, cannot alter truth, and truth, like light, will always outshine darkness. The truth is that India's mastery was never dependent on approval from foreign tongues. It was never about responding to ridicule with rebuttal. It was about responding with results. Chandrayaan 3, in its silence, answered every insult. It did not need to shout. It soared. It did not retaliate. It reached. It did not descend to debate. It rose to history. True mastery comes not from the noise of pride, but from the discipline of perseverance. And India's scientists have shown exactly that. With limited resources, in the face of harsh judgment and narrow perceptions, they have built something extraordinary. They have demonstrated that intelligence and vision are not the property of the rich, and that excellence is not reserved for those with historic privilege. The same voices that once dictated terms to India now find themselves forced to report on her triumphs, not because they wish to, but because they must. Mockery, when it fails, becomes silence, and in that silence we hear the sound of transformation. The laughter fades, the sneers disappear. All that remains is the undeniable reality of what has been achieved. Let us never forget that ridicule is the weapon of the insecure. It is used by those who feel their grip slipping, those who fear change, those who still cling to the illusion that greatness is the domain of a few. But the world is changing. Power is no longer measured only in military strength or financial clout. It is measured in innovation, in ideas, in the ability to lift people up rather than push them down. Chandrayaan 3 is not just the product of India's technological progress. It is a reflection of her spiritual strength. A nation that was mocked for dreaming dared to dream anyway, and that is the highest form of mastery, to rise above not only challenge, but insult, to build in the midst of being belittled, to create while being criticized, and to stand not in retaliation, but in quiet triumph. It is easy to mock. It takes no courage to laugh at others, but it takes wisdom to know when laughter is simply a shield for fear. It takes grace to rise above mockery and continue on one's path, undeterred and focused. And it takes mastery to turn doubt into demonstration, to respond to every slight with a success so undeniable that even one's critics must bear witness. Let those who mock now reflect. Let them ask themselves what it means when the very people once ruled by others now lead in fields once dominated by the few. Let them consider whether their assumptions were based on fact or on lingering prejudice, and let the lesson be clear to the world. Mastery cannot be denied, no matter how it is mocked. And when the work is complete, when the dream has been realized, it is not mockery that remains, it is legacy. Would you like me to expand Keynote 5 next? Certainly. Here is a 600-word expansion of Keynote 5. Dignity thrives where resilience leads. Written in the reflective and dignified style of Nelson Mandela, resilient, graceful, and filled with moral clarity. There are moments in the life of a nation when resilience becomes more than survival. It becomes the foundation of dignity. India's journey to Chandrayaan 3 was not paved with ease, nor was it shielded from judgment. But in the face of skepticism, scarcity, and condescension, India chose not to bend or break. Instead, it chose to rise one step at a time, one mission after another. Resilience in its purest form is the ability to move forward without bitterness, to struggle without surrender, and to keep walking even when the world doubts your direction. It is this resilience that has allowed India to stand tall with dignity on the global stage. Dignity is not gifted by power or wealth. It is earned by those who continue to pursue truth, justice, and progress even when they are overlooked or underestimated. In this light, Chandrayaan 3 is more than a scientific achievement. It is a story of national character. It represents the dignity of a people who refuse to be defined by their past or limited by the judgments of others. It is a reminder that even in a world where loud voices try to set limits on who can succeed, quiet perseverance can break those limits wide open. There is nothing easy about building something from within a post-colonial reality. There are structural inequalities, financial hurdles, and historical burdens that linger across generations. But India has shown that it is not those challenges that define her, it is her refusal to let those challenges defeat her. This resilience, not just physical or economic, but moral and intellectual. It is the kind of strength that comes from generations who have known hardship and chosen not to respond with hatred, but with hope and hard work. Every scientist, every engineer, every technician who contributed to Chandrayaan 3 is a torchbearer of this dignity. They are not merely workers in a program. They are symbols of a dream that would not die, a dream passed down through families who believed that knowledge could liberate, that education could elevate, and that truth, when pursued with discipline, would one day shine brighter than any doubt. Their efforts are not just acts of expertise, they are acts of honor. Let us not forget that dignity and resilience are not abstract ideals. They are lived realities. They are found in the long hours of a researcher who refuses to give up after failure. They are present in the teacher who plants the seeds of curiosity in a rural classroom. They are alive in the single mother who sacrifices so her child might reach further than she ever could. These are the unseen foundations of Chandrayaan 3. The rocket may have been launched from a spaceport, but the mission was powered by the spirit of a people who have always known how to endure and how to rise. In today's world, where pride is often mistaken for progress, India offers another model, one rooted in humility, quiet strength, and collective resolve. She does not boast, but she builds. She does not retaliate, but she rises. She does not ask for permission to dream, she simply dares to do it, and in doing so, she affirms a truth that the world must learn to accept, that dignity belongs not to the loudest, but to the most steadfast. This resilience is not about resisting the world, but about uplifting it. It carries within it the quiet wisdom that to walk steadily, even under pressure, is greater than to run wildly in privilege. India's resilience is its greatest strength, not because it wins applause, but because it protects dignity, and wherever that kind of strength leads, dignity will follow.